What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to show you how to replace your clutch cable on a 2010 to 2014 BMW s1000rr. As you can see, ours is broke, and it actually broke down by the actuator arm. You can see it's all frayed and broken, so we're going to replace it with a new OEM part. I know there is ones on eBay for like 30 bucks, aftermarket ones, but I don't know how good of quality those are, and they may snap very quickly. So, and it sucks when it happens because it happened on this one. So I got my brand new clutch cable right here, and we used our cable lubing tool and the lube, and we lubed this thing up. We made sure that the fluid went from one end to the other, and we saw some of it dripped out, so we know that it went fully through. And now we'll start on the bike. First thing you're going to do is get your T25, and there's going to be a bunch of screws and stuff that you got to take off. First, get your T25, take off the bolt for the seat under here on both sides. You'll end up taking off this bolt. There is a bolt under there. You'll take off this one. You'll take off this whole front piece. So there's 1, 2, 3. Same on the other side, and the middle one here, that is a T25. We're going to get all those off now, and then we'll show you what happens next with the tank. All right, so we loosened everything up. We got the bolt over here, there. We got these 3 and the middle one that holds this centerpiece on. This bolt is a longer one. Once you get that off, it just literally just picks right up, and you can see that it's a much longer bolt than the other ones. After the top piece is off and you made sure that all these bolts are out of here, this part just literally slides towards the front of the bike and it comes off. So it goes forward and then it comes right off. You'll repeat for the other side. Next, get your T30. There is a bolt on here and the other side which bolts the gas tank down. This is not a T25, this is a T30, so make sure you swap out your socket and start to take out these 2 bolts. All right, so we got both of the bolts out, the bolt on this side and the other side. Next, there is 2 tubes that you need to take off, which are breather tubes. There's this one and this one right here. You just pull them off. Next, go to the right side of the bike. You're gonna have to take out this bolt. It is a 10 millimeter. You can see there is the clip that it screws into on this side over here. All right, so we pulled out the bolt going this way. Don't forget that there should be a washer. And obviously it only comes out this way. Now before I start lifting off the tank, I'm going to take off this thing right here because it could possibly fall off and you don't want to lose that. So maybe just pull this off like so you don't lose it. Look at how it sits on the tank if you're on the throttle side of the bike, so you remember when you're putting the bolt through that it goes this way. Next, to take off the tank, you have to end up just lifting it straight up, and eventually you'll see the fuel line and everything. So we're going to prop the back end up with like a piece of wood or something, just so that we have enough room to get in here where we can start adjusting the clutch cable. So just lift it up. And of course, if you have a full tank of gas, it kind of sucks. So I'm lifting this up like this. I got that there. Make sure it's not messing anything up. Now we got plenty of room to go get in here, and I'll show you this in a second. All right, so we're under the tank right now, and you can see that this right down here is the clutch cable. You'll have to start loosening that up. You also want to go to your top part over here and start adjusting this knob. Turn this in all the way as much as you can. All right, we turned our adjuster in and we made sure that we have this line right here and the gap right here. Now, since the cable is snapped, I should just be able to pull this out like this and literally get this out over here and then just pull down and take off the cable. All right, so we have our cable out of here. And this part was fine. It was just the other part that broke. I don't know what caused it. It could have just been, I mean, this is a 2013 model and I've only had it for a couple months now. So I don't know if the previous owner never lubed this cable, or hopefully nothing happened with the clutch. But the whole point of the video is to show you how to replace this. So either way, since that's out now, we can start going underneath there and we can start loosening it up to get it off the actuator arm. But since ours is broke right by the actuator arm, we could just loosen up the things and get it out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the tank just to make this job a lot easier. There is the fuel line, there is this connector right here, and there is this other one right here. So we'll first start with the fuel line. There is a button on the right side of the bike. And let me get over there so I can show you it. You can see there is that button there. You could press that in and pull down and the fuel line will come out, and of course a little bit of fuel will come out as you do that. All right, we got our rag in place, so I'm going to push on this part and pull down on the fuel line. As you can see, a little bit came out, but now it's out. And then you could start taking off these other two. There is the thing right here, you can see. There is that little thing, so you just got to kind of pull that out very, very gentle and pull this part out while you're doing that. I'm not going to be able to get it on film because I'm just going to have two hands in there. But same with the other one. End up pressing it up a little bit, very, very slightly and gentle as you pull that out. All right, we have the two wires unplugged. Fuel line is unplugged. I'm going to take this wood piece off, put that down, and then I am going to grab the tank and lightly put it on the rag on the ground. All right, so you can see that this is our clutch cable. There is two nuts over here. I'm actually going to take a micrometer and measure from here to here, or you could just use a ruler or anything like that, just so you get a general idea of how it should be when you put the new cable into the part right here. Now, some things to keep in mind is that with the new cable, obviously it's going to be tighter. So this measurement is going to give you kind of like a baseline, and you can kind of take it from there. You may have to adjust it to, you know, in or out more depending. And obviously that will be with the clutch lever and everything. But so you're going to take off this nut, start loosening it. We're going to use the 1/2 inch wrench to get this off, and then after this comes out, after that is done, we're going to have to take off the side fairings on both sides so that we can actually get to the actuator, because I should have that little piece still in there. And of course, when we go to hook it back up, we're going to have to be able to see it anyway. So we'll start taking off the nut on the beginning. All right, so we took our 1/2 inch ratchet, we started loosening this nut. All right, since we got the nut off that end, if the cable wasn't broken, obviously it would just be sitting on the wire, but I made sure that I didn't lose it, just in case for a spare part, and then just pulls right out like so. Pull this out. Now we got to start taking off the side fairings. All right, so we got the right side fairing off. Now you want to look at the orientation of how the clutch cable is running, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to run the new cable exactly next to the old one and just follow the lines down to get it into place to where it needs to be. So we're going to do that now. We're going to first set it up here. Well, actually, I'm going to have to first pull this thing out because I don't think there's enough room to get the two of them in there, but we'll try. If not, then I'll just take that one out and slip the other one in. So I was able to get both cables in here at the same time. The nut just fits if you push this thing down. So now I'm just slowly snaking this thing out while keeping the orientation. I'm going to put this in there and just follow it the same exact way to get it into place over here. Now once you get to the part where you're basically halfway through here, there's a little like silver nut thing over here, and you are over here. Now it has to go through right down there. Now these nuts are going to get in the way, so if you unscrew them off of the threads and just get it on the cable, it won't fall off because this part is too big. You could actually maneuver them in a way to get them through that tiny little hole right there. We got the cable routed where it needs to be. You can see that right over here, this little metal piece goes right into this little bracket right there when it's all set. But you don't have to leave it in there for now. You can kind of just let it be loose. Now, I put the first nut back on. This one's still going to be loose. All right. It's gonna swing down. You go under the loop. You get your cable in there, and then this thing will just slide right into there. And obviously, you're going to probably have to adjust this all the way back to get this into the actuator arm. And then you can start adjusting it to where this part needs to be. All right, so I didn't have to take off this whole left side. I just took out this bolt, the one that connects over by the kickstand, and this one right here. And then I was just able to pull this out from the frame over here a little bit, just so we could see what's going on. Now, as you can see, I have to get something to hold it out, but that is where it will hook into. So basically, you're going to notice that there's a lot of slack in this cable, and the reason why is because it has to go all the way around, turn around into there, and then you have to snug it in there so that it doesn't stick out any, because there is an indentation on the side of here that the cable goes through. All right, so I put a piece of styrofoam in here just to kind of hold the fairing off. Now you can see this part. There is this part. You can push it forward. It's going to have to go like that. You're going to have to twist this around, get it in there, and then get the cable back in there. Obviously, you don't want it sticking out because that can cause some issues with the cable. So something I did to make this a little bit more manageable and easier to do was I actually took this out of the bracket just so I can get enough slack to push the cable down and to really get this in here. Now, when you're putting this thing in here, when you start to push it down, if you push it down too far, it's going to fall out. So you have to kind of like, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but once you get it in there, you'll see that it's set. Just make sure the wire goes through like that. And then now I'm just going to pull it back, get the cable through here again, and then start screwing on the nut on that side. And after this is done, we're going to take our 1/2" wrench, tighten this down because that will hold these two into place. And then you can start to put on your cable into your lever. What I'm going to do to make it easier is I'm going to get my T30, loosen this up, swing this up a little bit. I'm actually going to take off the lever, connect the cable into the lever, and then put it back into the perch just because it'll be easier. We loosened the T30 bolt. We tilted this bracket up. I took off the 10mm nut and I got the washer off. Now I'm going to take out this bolt, take the lever off. I'm going to attach it to the cable just to try to keep it in the most natural position that I could. I'll put this back into the perch with the cable probably sticking out like this. I'll put the bolt back in, and then I will tighten the nut, get that all set, and then I'll start to shimmy this in there. All right, we have our lever back in place. It first connected it to here, and I just kind of turned it, pushed that back into there, put the bolt in. You can see that the cable is kind of hanging over there, but it is in the slot way. So now all I have to do is just pull this over like so. I'm actually going to get a little tool just to press this and get this back into here. After that, you know, you could push this bracket back down to where you want it to be, and then you can start playing with your adjuster. All right, everything is back into place. Make sure that this part right here is on the switch and it is functioning properly, which it is. What I did use was I used something like this to, when I got that in place, just to pry it over just a little bit to help and get it in there. You might be able to pull the cable, or you might need a friend to help you to do that, but this tool just helped me shift it over just enough to get it back in there, and then it sunk back in. All right, so we tightened down this bolt. We got the lever in the place where I think it should be. I did start to turn this out just to get some pull on here. Make sure you have smooth operation. Since we lubed the cable in the beginning and it is a new cable, it should feel pretty easy to pull in. Also, you can check down here on your actuator arm to make sure that that is moving properly. And obviously you can always adjust that part with the 2 nuts to your liking. So since this part is all set and that's in, I'm going to take this piece out. I'm going to push the fairing back in. I could button this side all up, and I could also button the other side up as well. A few things to note. Make sure that this is in the correct spot. You can see over here that that little nut right here sits in this little bracket that has to be pushed down into there. And obviously make sure that everything is routed how it should be. After you connected your fuel lines to your tank and the 2 wires, be wary of the orientation of where the fuel line should sit. There is a spot for it, and then this way it won't get kinked when the fuel tank is on it. All right, so we mounted the tank back up. First, I put it down on the bike, and then what I ended up doing was lifting up the back part like this with one hand, and with the other hand, I plugged in the 2 wires and the fuel line. They just plug in, make sure they snap in, and they feel good and tight. After that, you just make sure that this goes back down. The tank does have to fit in between here and here. If it's getting hung up, I suggest make sure that this side gets in the correct spot first, and then the right side seemed to just fall in perfectly, at least for me. After that, get your 2 vent hoses, plug that back into there, and then this one goes right into there. And then you could start the bike to make sure that everything is functioning properly. After making sure that the bike started properly, there wasn't any fuel leaking, and that it revved fine, I next started to bolting stuff up. I did these 2, this one and the other side first to get that set, and then I did this one. Also, make sure that you don't use your little fairing clips that are on both sides of the gas tank. Before you go put the right side fairing on, make sure that your clutch cable is in this correct slot over here, and it should be pushed down into it. Next, start putting on your side tank trim. You can tell that there's that slot right there, and it will just slide right into there, and it fits right into place nicely. Also, on the end of this, you can see there's that little nub that goes right almost where the bolt part is. After your tank trim is installed, put on the top cover. It literally just goes straight down, and remember that the long bolt goes right into the middle. The last thing you're going to need to install will be the seat. Make sure that these 2 bolts are all super tight and good to go, because obviously when the seat's on here, you're not going to be able to access that. All right, the seat is on, and now you are all good to go. I do highly suggest that you go over every single bolt to make sure that everything is tight, even after going for a ride for a little bit. Bolts do tend to come loose on these machines over time from the vibration, and it is good practice if you don't want to lose your bolts. Also, for your clutch free play, it says in the manual for when it's cold to be 0.5 to 1 millimeter. Some like to do it to that spec after it's warm. I think either or you'll be okay. You have your adjuster and you have way than enough more room to adjust it properly. So just be wary of that. All right, so that's going to do it for today's video, guys. As always, we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.